Hey guys, Jake here. A prince is looked down on by everyone, but he's actually an SS rank adventurer hiding his true identity so he can help his younger brother become king. The anime begins with a black-haired young man out in the desert, accompanied by a man named Seabass, who asks him to please return to the castle. Slightly annoyed, the young man tells him to stop popping up out of nowhere until Seabass informs him that General Dominic has just died. There isn't much evidence to confirm it was murder, but if it was, the killer is still unknown. Hearing this convinces the young man to head back, though not before finishing his current job, since he changes clothes first. He's actually a prince who moonlights as an adventurer, and Seabass understands he does this to avoid being recognized, though he still warns him not to take unnecessary risks, calling him the seventh prince of the empire. We learn that because his younger brother was born with natural talent, people call him the Dull Prince, a nickname that only pushes him to do as he pleases. His adventurer alias is Silver, a Class S adventurer. He takes down the beast he came to eliminate without any trouble, then heads to the guild afterward to turn in the Minotaur King's horn. The receptionist pays him for it, remarking that it's an honor to have one of the continent's 5 double Class S adventurers in the capital. Since money isn't a big deal to Silver, he usually gives part of it away to buy drinks for others, while also asking for priority on the toughest available jobs. After this, he ducks into an alley to change back to his normal form and opens a portal to the Imperial Sword Castle. There he meets his brother, Leonard Rex Adler, the 8th Imperial Prince, along with the butler Seabass. Arnold asks what happened with Dominic, and Leonard says it's his fault for having had him as an ally. Arnold lists several people who could have been behind the assassination, but they still don't know who did it. Arnold's priority is to avoid a family conflict, but he acknowledges that if Leonard doesn't fight for the throne, he'll be killed too, just as their mother was, and as Arnold himself nearly was. With that, Leonard decides to fight for the throne, and Arnold agrees to support him, advising him to gather allies and strengthen his position so he isn't left vulnerable. Arnold himself will go find allies too, though he notes the most powerful ones belong to noble families or ministers already aligned with the 3 older factions. Leonard remarks that Arnold would make a better emperor, but acknowledges that isn't the life his brother wants. Later, Seabass asks Arnold why he doesn't just reveal that he's Silver. Arnold explains that their great-grandfather became obsessed with ancient magic to the point of losing his mind, which made magic taboo within the royal family, so it wouldn't be good for anyone to learn he uses it. Seabass adds that Silver is the most powerful adventurer in the kingdom's history, but Arnold insists it's better if no one knows his true identity. He then asks Seabass if there's a duke currently caught up in the succession struggle. Seabass mentions House Kleinert, explaining they had no choice but to get involved due to a monster outbreak on their territory, so Arnold decides to send Silver to help them and collect a favor in return. He recognizes this might raise suspicion about his connection to Leonard, but decides he doesn't care. If anything, it might make people hesitate to move against him. With that, Arnold changes back into disguise. Seabass warns him to be careful, and mentions that Duke Kleinert's daughter is known by the nickname Blaumau. The protagonist recalls her as the woman who received a blue seagull hairpin from her father. Seabass confirms this and urges him not to be charmed by her, which irritates Arnold, who tells him to stop being so formal all the time. Seabass apologizes, reminding him that being formal is literally what he was hired for. Setting that aside, Arnold puts on his mask and says goodbye to Seabass. At the Kleinert mansion, introducing himself as Silver, speaks with a blonde man and asks to see the Duke. On hearing the name, the man laughs and says that if they'd been expecting his visit, the guild would have notified them, and tells him not to waste his time and just go home. Silver starts to pull out his adventurer's card, but the man tells him isn't necessary and to leave already. This angers Silver, who makes it clear he's there under Prince Leonard's direct orders, meaning this attitude is a direct insult to the prince as well as to him. The blonde man doesn't care and orders him to leave again. At that moment, the protagonist notices a young woman watching him from one of the mansion's windows and decides to leave without further argument, thinking to himself on the way out that she's undeniably beautiful. Back at the mansion, Seabass greets him over tea. Arnold walks to his desk and tells him they'll be heading to the Kleinert mansion as soon as possible. Seabass asks if he hasn't just come from there, and Arnold clarifies that it was Silver who went, but this time Prince Arnold himself will make the visit, leaving the Duke no choice but to beg Leonard for help. Seabass points out that this makes him sound like a villain, but Arnold brushes him off and orders him to get ready immediately, since the ride to the mansion will take 5 days on horseback. 5 days later, our protagonist meets with Duke Kleinert. Confused by the visit, the Duke asks its purpose, and Arnold says he wants to discuss compensation. When the Duke asks what he means, Arnold explains that although Leonard didn't want to bring it up, the Duke's current situation requires his support, then demands to know if he's forgotten that Leonard already helped by sending Silver, a double S-rank adventurer, to deal with their monster problem. Startled, the Duke stands up and asks if he's certain about this, which enrages Arnold, who snaps at him for daring to question him. Seabass steps in and asks him to calm down, since it seems the Duke genuinely didn't know about the case. Arnold complies, and staying composed, gives the Duke a bit more time to gather information. Once the Duke leaves, Seabass comments on how well the ruse went, but Arnold says it wasn't entirely an act, since someone in that mansion really did turn Silver away, and this is the only way he can help his brother, even if it costs him his own reputation. Suddenly, they hear shouting from the other side of the room, and the Duke enters along with his son, apologizing profusely, since it turns out that 5 days earlier, the adventurer Silver had indeed come to the mansion, only to be turned away by the son. Watching the Duke scold his son without stopping, Arnold reminds him that a child's mistakes reflect on the parent too, and demands something valuable from the family as compensation for ruining the deal with Silver. At that moment, a young woman steps forward offering herself as compensation, introducing herself as Finn von Kleinert and begging him to forgive her family. Her father and brother try to stop her and beg the prince not to take her, while Seabass suggests the prince calm his anger and consult Leonard first before deciding anything. Arnold hesitates, suspecting Leonard will end up forgiving them anyway. Seabass notes that if so, there's nothing more to be done, since that kindness is exactly what draws people to Leonard. With no other option, Arnold orders them to send someone to find Silver. Later, inside an inn, Arnold and Finn meet up with Silver, and she apologizes deeply for her family's rudeness. Silver brushes it off, saying he's already gathered that her family is fairly incompetent. Arnold then asks if he's willing to take the mission back on, and Silver agrees, but first want confirmation that the Duke's family is now on their side. When Arnold admits they didn't promise anything, Silver compares him unfavorably to his brother, calling Leonard someone genuinely capable, and states plainly that he won't help unless the Duke puts his support in writing. Facing this problem, Arnold asks him to exterminate the monsters anyway, and Silver replies that it's hard to trust a dull prince. Arnold admits that's fair, but still lowers his head and begs him to do it. Finn is stunned watching this, and Silver remarks that he seems to have none of the pride expected of royalty. Arnold agrees he isn't worthy of anyone's trust, but insists he still needs the monsters dealt with, and given his persistence, Silver finally agrees, since as an adventurer he's not allowed to leave monsters roaming free anyway, though he mentions he's still counting on the Duke's family to follow through. Finn is delighted and promises they will. As they're about to board the carriage, Seabass remarks on how impressive it was to create a false image of Silver using illusion magic. Arnold notes it worked exactly as planned, since Finn is now convinced the real Silver was with them the whole trip. Finn thanks Arnold for lowering his head the way he did for the sake of his people, saying it proves he isn't the frightening figure people make him out to be. Arnold denies doing it for their sake, and Finn agrees but says she'd still rather believe he did. Seeing her expression as she says this, Arnold has a brief, uncomfortable flashback to his past. Later, standing in front of a swarm of slimes, Seabass asks him what exactly came to mind in that moment, whether it was the meteor shower he once watched with his mother and siblings as a child. It turns out that, for some reason, Lady Finn's smile reminded him of the joy from that memory. Arnold tells him to stop talking nonsense, and Seabass apologizes as they watch the slimes continue multiplying. Seabass reports that 2 Class A adventurers and 4 Class B adventurers were already sent to neutralize the threat, but failed to resolve it, so Silver heads there himself to finish it immediately. At the heart of the problem, the adventurers are still fighting off slimes when Silver arrives. The team leader introduces himself as Abel, Class A, and tells him that although they heard about him from the Duke, they can't just walk away as adventurers. Silver says he understands, so Abel asks why someone like him would even take this job. Silver responds by asking if Abel genuinely believes he can handle the situation. Another adventurer joins the conversation and reports that the mother slime has grown too large, forcing them to retreat. Arnold tells them they're welcome to step back from the fight, but they'll need to report to the guild and request an emergency declaration, which would put him officially in charge of the new mission. Realizing how serious he is, Abel gives in and lets him do as he pleases. Silver thanks them for holding the line as long as they did, then moves in to finish off the slimes. He begins casting ancient magic, leaving the other adventurers stunned, and once the spell completes, a massive fire spell wipes out the entire area, confirming the destruction of every slime, including the mother. Silver tells the others to handle the report, though Abel asks if he's sure, since it also wiped out the Duke's forest. Silver makes clear he has no interest in being anyone's hero and leaves without another word. That evening, back home, Arnold takes off his mask, quite satisfied with himself, only to hear Finn's confused voice as she recognizes him as Prince Arnold.